Hey guys, it's me, using this image that I like using again. But anyways, let's just get right into it. I'm sure a good majority of people have heard of the Metroid series, or at least its main protagonist, Samus Aran. Other than having armor that usually looks sick as hell, there are some pretty cool facts, such as being one of the first female protagonists in video games, starring in a video game that was responsible for creating a genre known as a Metroidvania, probably has one of the highest body counts in the Nintendo roster, starring in one of the few sci-fi IPs Nintendo has, and in probably one of the most mature ones as well. Bonus fact about Samus: there was a brief moment where a manga was released depicting Samus as a male hero surrounded by a bunch of women and stuff, because, you know, Samus' gender was mostly ambiguous at the time of Metroid's release, unless you got a certain ending, which basically confirmed it. So, as we all know, however, about Samus' real gender, this basically cements Samus as a lesbian icon. So that's pretty funny. Other than this little fun fact, however, trying to research for this video was a bit difficult because the Metroid timeline is a bit interesting to try and learn, and I've definitely got some things wrong, so feel free to correct me in the comments below. But the chronological timeline starts with Zero Mission, which is a remake of the Nintendo Entertainment version. Then it goes to Metroid Prime, directly into Metroid Prime Hunters, and then into Metroid Prime 2, then the Metroid Prime 3, and then we take a detour into Metroid Red Federation Force. I can't speak. Then Metroid Samus Returns, which is a remake of Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. Then we go into Super Metroid, which transitions into Metroid Other M, then into Metroid Fusion, and finally into Metroid Dread. While at times it can be, you know, slightly confusing and all with the game order and all that, I still think the Metroid games are pretty cool. I know people don't really like Other M that much due to, like, some reasons or another, but I think they all have a thing going for them. Now, I'm gonna go a little off topic here, how people like to glaze Kirby as one of the strongest Nintendo protagonists and stuff, because, oh look, they look adorable, but, would you take a look at that? Eldritch Horrors and all that. Now, me personally, my honest opinion, they have not seen how Samus is moving, bro. Yeah, sure, Kirby's able to beat Eldritch Gods or whatever, and is apparently able to tussle with Goku according to Versus Battle Wiki. I don't trust that wiki, and you shouldn't either. Like, do you know what's going to happen to Kirby whenever he tries to inhale Samus or do anything to try and harm her? I'm right, I'm left, I'm left, I'm right, I'm right, I'm left, I'm left, I'm right. Like, I don't care what you say on what Kirby has fought and what Samus hasn't, bro. He is getting washed by her. He's getting hit with this shit right here, bro. He's not going to do anything. Now, back on topic. Samus is heavily regarded as the greatest bounty hunter in the Metroid universe, and regularly takes contracts from the Galactic Federation, I'm pretty sure, considering she's a bounty huntress and all that. And she has worked with other bounty hunters before, notably in Metroid Prime 3. Now, unfortunately, these bounty hunters end up getting corrupted with something called Phazon, or the Phazon virus, or I'm not even sure it is a virus. It's something called Phazon, though. Now, I should also mention Samus was also corrupted, and this was all due to someone named Dark Samus, who is Samus, but evil. I forgot most of her lore, but yeah. So the rest of Metroid Prime 3 consists of Samus in a new suit, trying to harness the powers of Phazon to varying success, and basically find her squad mates to put them down, eventually putting an end to Dark Samus once and for all. I should also mention, Samus blew up the planet that Dark Samus was on, which was the source of all Phazon in the universe, making it basically extinct. So I don't know if that's what cured her condition, which doesn't seem very likely. So I'm pretty sure she just tanked a very much lethal infection. Now, jumping over to Metroid Samus Returns, there's a nifty little post-credits scene in, like, I'm pretty sure the actual Metroid 2, where Samus kind of gets infected with something again. But Super Metroid happens in between. And Metroid Other M. Just had to interrupt myself there for a second because I kind of almost glossed over that. And then we see the effects of it in Metroid Fusion. You're still with me? Good. At the end of Metroid 2, after practically making all of the other Metroids extinct, Samus takes what appears to be the last remaining Metroid in the known universe into Galactic Federation hands so they can do whatever, I guess. So in Super Metroid, there's a lot of things that happen in between all the events I'm going to talk about, but all you need to know is that Mother Brain, one of the enemies in the first Metroid game, was brought back, so Samus had to put her down again. The baby Metroid ends up dying after sacrificing itself to help Samus, and then Samus blows up the planet again, and basically makes all space pirates and Metroids extinct in this one game. So somehow, only now, Samus has to get rehabilitated due to getting severe PTSD due to everything she's experienced, which seems a bit like plot cancer to me, but moving on. So, Samus immediately goes back to doing what she does, bounty hunting, and gets a mission where she has to go explore an abandoned space station, or abandoned research station, or whatever. And turns out it is not only not abandoned, but there's a bunch of scientists here that have somehow brought Metroids back. You know, the thing Samus has worked tirelessly to kill. At that point, I would have just crashed out. Oh yeah, one of her friends, Adam, kind of like sacrifices himself to destroy some of the contaminated area in the station or something. I don't know, I forgot. Anyways, so Samus blows that ship up, and the rest of the Metroids with it. Moving on. So you remember that little thing that I mentioned she got infected with in Metroid 2 that we're now just feeling the effects of? Yeah, so we're now feeling the effects of it. It's called the X-Parasite. However, don't worry about it. Samus is eventually saved after the armor was pried off her body, and she was given a new armor set. So then she returns to bounty hunting again, because, you know, she's got to get that bag. I respect it, honestly. So she goes to a station that was messing with her suit, that was infected with the X-Parasite, and turns out this parasite somehow managed to clone itself and the armor with it. So now there are several versions of her armor just, you know, walking around the station. So I need you to guess what she decides to do here. She escapes the station after making it crash into the planet below it. Again, how many space stations and planets has she destroyed at this point? Like, dog, do you see how she's moving here? So anyways, that's about it for this video here. I was going to talk about Metroid Dread, but I decided against it, for now at least. I might do a follow-up video eventually. In conclusion, however, eat your heart out, Kirby. You get stomped. Fallout New Vegas is one of my favorite games of all time. Probably one of my top 10. I forget, that list changes very frequently. Now, even though I can barely run Fallout New Vegas on my PC due to the 97 different mods I have, I still enjoy this game to death. And during my time of actually playing it, I've kind of realized something. The main character is an absolutely horrible person. There is no contest about it. Now, quick rundown for those unfamiliar with Fallout New Vegas. You play as someone simply referred to as Courier 6. You had the job of delivering something known as the Platinum Chip, But you were eventually stopped by some rich guy and was not only robbed of what you were supposed to deliver, but you were also shot in the head. And whether it be due to luck, insane durability, or just bad aim on the shooter's part, you miraculously survived. What? You miraculously survived the shot, and now you are supposed to be looking for the guy who shot you via talking to several people in the wasteland, possibly helping them, and eventually going on to meet him in person to decide what you're going to do with him. Now, me personally, every time I met him, I just shot him, bro. Like, honestly, shit ain't sweet after what you did to me. Okay, just look, hear me out real quick, okay? I like to think I'm a pretty nice person, okay? You know, I like to constantly do the right thing, and I agree with the moral standing of Batman, where, you know, killing the person who killed a lot doesn't really make you better than them. Now, I already know you're trying to interrupt me and stuff, okay? Now, how about you just listen to the video, okay? The Joker completely deserves to die. Alright, look. Batman doesn't want to catch a body because he's afraid that he'll like killing and want to keep doing it. Which, I don't know if you know, goes completely against his moral standing. With all that being said, I'm not Batman, aren't I? Bro, Benny, it's on site with Benny, bro. You are going to die. Now, after exacting justice in the form of a 50 BMG round, you eventually gain the attention of several factions, but notably 3 major ones. That being the NCR, Caesar's Legion, and Mr. House. The NCR, or the New California Republic, are basically like... they're basically your standard military or police, you know, trying to keep everything under their control to make things more civilized and stuff. Caesar's Legion, on the other hand, they're a bunch of slavers, okay? This is literally just like, there's no sugarcoating it. They're slavers. And Mr. House is basically someone who wants to provide a future for everyone in the Commonwealth. Albeit, he's very strict, but still. Now, you can either help one of these factions, along with some minor factions, but you can help one of these major factions, or decide to go independent Mojave and side with someone by the name of Yes Man. Now, to be frank for a second, it doesn't matter which faction you help, or if you go independent or not. The Courier actively makes the Mojave worse than it already was. I feel like the NCR might be the best ending, because even if people don't like them, at least they do some kind of order compared to what Caesar's Legion does. Can you guess what a couple of slavers would do? Not even a couple. Can you guess what a faction of slavers would do when they have full control over an entire continent? Not continent, but you know what I mean. Oh yeah, and Mr. House kind of just becomes a bit of a dictator and starts watching literally everyone with Securitrons. You know, the cool things, the secure future and all that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, and also independent Mojave is just like... The Mojave loses all order it had to begin with, which was very little, by the way. So everything just becomes worse for everyone in general. Now, look, I'm not saying the Courier is incapable of being a good person. Obviously, you can do really good things for people to help them out. But in the long run, by the time the Courier's done, well, the Mojave is kind of just a worse place to live in. Like, it doesn't matter what ending you pick, it's just worse somehow. Oh yeah, you can also, like, fuck up people's lives indirectly or directly depending on what you do. For instance, Veronica, who is one of my favorite characters in the game. You know, she's a little strong, but I still like her, okay? And she's a part of this nifty little faction called the Brotherhood of Steel, which this specific iteration of the Brotherhood of Steel, or this chapter, the Mojave chapter of it, they kind of suck. They just harass people if you have technology that's, like, higher than a toaster, and just, like, steal it from you because apparently it's too dangerous to be kept in civilian hands or just anyone's hands or something. Either way, these guys are her family. They took her in when she was, wandering out in the waste. They basically raised her, taught her their ways and stuff. They're her family, the only family she's ever known. And it's unfortunate because in like half the endings, you're supposed to go blow up their base or like leave them alive and stuff. And either way, you make her life significantly worse after meeting her. Like, okay, imagine meeting this stranger. The stranger that seems pretty cool, They're going like back to back with you. They even got you that dress you always wanted. And then they suddenly tell you that, oh, by the way, I blew up your family's base so you don't have a home to go back to. Or I did something where you just like ended up dying. I don't know what I did, but you died. Or, you get banished from the Brotherhood due to political disagreement or something. I just find the parallel between Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas really funny, because Fallout 3 is like, oh, thank you, you stopped the tyrannical government that was, like, stopping us from getting the water purifier back up. Now we can give clean water to the people of the Capital Wasteland. And then Fallout New Vegas is like, hey, yeah, you did something cool for this faction, but you're kind of like a terrorist and a bad person. Don't worry about that, though. In conclusion, it's still on site with Benny, bro. I don't care. So obviously, everyone knows about fictional characters and how, sometimes we would like to see a lot of crossovers with certain fictional characters. Death Battle usually gives us that, but Death Battle is usually making those characters go up against each other, which, that's the point, and that was kind of obvious. But what I'm gonna do in this video is propose a bunch of characters that I think would actually be really cool in a group. So this first one is the Where's My Wife group. We have Ethan Winters from Resident Evil, Elster from Signalis, James Sunderland from Silent Hill, and finally Isaac Clarke from Dead Space. Now I personally think this would be the most reasonable group on our list. I feel like they would all get along quite well as they're all human. Mostly, I think, unless there's some lore I missed. Well, Elster's an android, but like, same thing, she can at least feel. Out of all of them, I feel like Isaac Clarke might be the most, unreasonable or the most problematic out of all of them due to the hallucinations. Then again, I don't really know much about the other characters other than they're, low-key that guy. We could also turn this into a survival horror protagonist group and add Leon Kennedy, Joel Miller, with a surprise cameo from Ellie Williams from the hit video game Resident. Then again, I feel like that group would just devolve into them playing bingo with Leon and Ellie in the background cracking jokes or some shit like, huh, I guess you and Joel are really the last of them, huh? Part 2. Now here we have the Demon Slayer group, which consists of Dante from the hit Devil May Cry series featuring Dante from Devil May Cry, V1 Ultra Kill from Ultra Kill, Frieren from the hit anime Frieren. Yeah, we're doing that. And finally, Doomslayer from Doom. Of course, we can add way more people to this, like Guts, Scorpion, Spawn, all of those guys. But I think we could just keep it to these 4 right now because, well, if we add a bunch of other angry people, I don't think this group's gonna fare that well. In terms of an actual powerhouse group, I think this group is, they got that shit. But in terms of actually socializing, I don't think they can do that real. I mean, Frieren and Dante might get along, maybe. So now we have the sci-fi group, which consists of the Master Chief from Halo, Samus Aran from Metroid, Shepard from Mass Effect, and Captain Titus from Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. We could also add Dark from Alien vs. Predator, along with the Trailblazer from Honkai Star Rail, which, by the way, it doesn't matter which gender the Trailblazer is, they're going to be heavily autistic, okay? This also has the sort of same quote-unquote problem that the previous group had, where they're absolutely powerhouses and could basically decimate any enemy in their way, but not a lot of them are really social. Again, the only ones I can really see that are, like, willing to talk with each other is the Trailblazer and Shepherd. But the others, I don't really see it. Samus is not going to talk. The Chief's barely going to talk, and it's just about the mission. Titus is probably going to preach the word of the Emperor or something, and then probably, like, physically threaten Dark, and then they start squabbling. So, this is probably going to be the last group up here. But here we have the Silent Swordsmen, or just the Silent Sword Users. Of course, we have Chris from Deltarune, Excalibur from Warframe, the Knight from Hollow Knight, and Link from The Legend of Zelda. Now, there is one major problem with all of these people in one group, which I have explained several times. Great fighting force. But none of these motherfuckers talk, bro. Like, they're just going to be staring at each other, like playing Uno or something, and when it's down to the last card, they just gotta raise their hand or something. Bro, like, they don't even need communication in team. They just go kill things. Okay. On the plus side, I don't think any of them would actually annoy each other, and they'd get along pretty well. I mean, the Knight's really short, so they gotta, like, worry about him and not, like, stepping on him or something like that. But other than that, I feel like they could all work really well together. They may not be a good powerhouse or as good of a powerhouse. Okay, I say that as the Knight and Excalibur are there. Okay, I retract my statement. So, once again, that's going to be it for this video. If you have any other group suggestions, you should totally leave them down in the comments. And I might go in more detail on why each team is really good next time around. But for now, in conclusion,